Hello everyone, is Bringonthechaos Glizzy for another What If Brolly got an reincarnated DC universe, using the Dragon Balls to send Brolly to safety? What will happen to our misunderstood giant? Before we start, can you like and subscribe for more What If? If you wanted to request a new series, please comment 3 hearts and say your fanfic that you wanted. It really helps. Thanks. Let's start. Chapter 1. Unstoppable Force. Please save Brolly. Send him somewhere. Frieza and the rest of these people can never hurt him. Cheelai shouted to the dragon. Though she would have accepted anywhere other than Earth at the moment, Shenron knew of other dimensions beyond the current 11 universes in existence. Multiverses that were in planes that existed parallel to their own. Shenron was but a mere fragment of the Super Dragon Balls created by the Dragon God, Zalama. Still, his power was more than sufficient for this wish. The being known as Frieza would be physically able to reach Brolly anywhere in the 11 universes. Removing Brolly from this dimension would ensure that would never happen. Shenron's eyes glowed bright red. Your wish has been granted. Farewell. The serpentine dragon's form began emitting a golden light until his entire being was no longer visible. He shot into the heavens and split into 7 Dragon Balls, scattering across the planet to await summoning once more. The darkened sky returned to its previous sunset. Cheelai felt a cold shiver crawl up her spine and froze with fear when she heard, "You wasted the Dragon Balls on a Saiyan monkey. I've not only been deprived of my wish, but additionally tasted defeat at the hands of these apes. Prepare yourself, soldier. For Earth will become your grave." Cheelai dreaded turning around to face her former employer. Frieza ended his tirade and aimed his golden index finger at Lemo's forehead. Not so fast. Gogeta appeared beside Frieza and slapped his wrist upward, causing his laser beam to sail harmlessly into the sky. Consider yourself lucky we don't kill you again. As it stands, you're no match for us. His dual voice contained an obvious tone of superiority and smugness. Frieza said nothing, but levitated into the air. I will be back for this planet one day. He sped off to his spacecraft to retreat once again, leaving Cheelai and Gogeta standing on what was left of the ice continent. Gogeta turned to Cheelai, who in turn gave him a nervous stare. She saw the way Gogeta manhandled Brolly and knew she was at his mercy. Where'd you send him? Cheelai let out a sigh of relief when she saw he was not going to kill her. But now that she thought about it, she didn't specify to the dragon where, only that he be safe from everyone. I don't know. Whis. Gogeta called out to the angel. The blue-skinned attendant teleported to him with Bulma in tow. Where's Brolly? Him. Whis gave an intense stare into the floating gem atop of his scepter. He looked through each galaxy of the universe and shook his head in the negative. I cannot seem to find your friend's life force anywhere in the cosmos. It's as if he simply disappeared off the grid. If it's any consolation, my dear, Frieza will no longer bring him harm. Cheelai's shoulders sagged at his news. Still, his words did bring her some comfort. Brolly was safe now, and at the end of the day, that's all that really mattered to her. You know, Bulma spoke up for the first time. Cheelai, was it? If you'd like, we can let you stay here on Earth for a while. At least, until you're comfortable enough to leave. I know Frieza wants you dead now, and if you live on this planet he won't be able to get to you. What do you say? You're welcome to come along, too. Bulma looked at Lemo. Metropolis was known around the United States for being the home of Superman, the Man of Steel. He earned that moniker due to his infamous invulnerability and unbendable will. His presence alone practically reduced crime to low levels, but there were always criminals who believed they could get away with it. 9 times out of 10, they don't. Currently, Superman himself was preoccupied with preventing an airliner from crashing into the Rocky Mountains. Before takeoff, the airliner's fuel measurements were in pounds not kilograms, leaving the plane severely under-fueled for the journey. A simple error almost caused a catastrophe if not for the resident Kryptonian. Superman spotted the nearest airport and flew there. With the pilots releasing the landing gear as he neared the ground, Superman set the commercial plane back on solid ground. Not minutes later did the local authorities arrive to aid him in saving the distraught passengers. If you have sustained any injuries, please seek medical treatment from the EMTs. If you are uninjured, please follow the officers into the airport and we'll get you to your destination or home if you prefer. A policeman directed the people. A couple of minutes later, a news crew arrived on the scene. A reporter and his cameraman in tow went up to Superman. "Mr. Superman, a word." Clark didn't want to be rude, so he indulged the reporter. "How can I help you?" Clark held out his hand. "Dave O. Rockwell for the local PBC News, can you tell us how you knew of this near tragedy?" Believe it or not, this was pure chance. I was on my way back to Metropolis from dealing with an avalanche in Alaska, and with my acute sense of hearing, picked up on the airliner's non-responsive engines and cries of distress. It wasn't easy to find the airliner, they were a couple of 100 miles from my position. Fortunately for us all, I did. Incredible, and while you do have the occasional team up with Wonder Woman, the Batman, Green Lantern and other heroes around the globe, have you ever thought about forming a superhero coalition? Or a league of some sorts? I'm not gonna lie to you, that idea has crossed my mind plenty of times in the past. But the leadership as well as organization and funding would be a large hurdle to overcome. Maybe one day that'll change. As for today, the world cannot thank you enough for all the good you've done, Superman. I do it to see you all safe, nothing more. Superman began walking away. Before you take off, can I ask you one more question? And this one is my own personal curiosity. Oh, Rockwell chuckled. How do you shave? You can take bullets and they'll bounce off of you, but how do you get rid of that 5 o'clock shadow? It's got to be a hassle, right? Superman laughed at the good-natured question. He could see the reporter was trying to lighten the mood. After all, today could have been much worse. Well, to tell you the truth, I use my heat vision to shave. I look into a mirror and use one eye to get rid of the stubble and the other to make sure I don't accidentally burn myself. Okay, thank you for sharing that with us. We'll let you go, I'm sure you have other places to be. Thanks for your help, Superman. I know that you're not everyone's favorite right now, but some us still believe in why. The TV screen shut off. Superman saves the day once again. A bald man with black eyes and a strong chin wearing a business suit leaned forward and rested his head over his interlaced hands. His deep voice matched his appearance and served him well throughout his life, making him as imposing as he was persuasive. Lex Luthor. Self-made billionaire Lex used his natural charisma and genius intellect to amass a vast fortune and position himself at the top of Metropolis. LexCorp surpassed nearly every other company on Earth in terms of influence and revenue. Lex himself donated millions to the city, building libraries, state-of-the-art hospitals, an affordable university, and committed countless other acts of philanthropy. Metropolis was an empire in his eyes, and he was its emperor. What very few people knew about Lex Luthor was his true nature. The man cared very little for the lives of those he helped in his city. All he wanted was power. The charitable acts were to one day vanish. Distract the public so he could focus on his secret projects in peace. Currently, Lex Luthor sat in his office atop his own building in Metropolis. At the moment, he was conducting surveillance on all the meta-humans he had tabs on, which in this case was well over 20. To his right, sitting by the coffee table, was his assistant, Mercy. She was typing reports on each of the heroes for later use. It would seem so, sir. Each of these heroes are aiding my crusade against the menace that is Superman. Whether they know it or not. The world will never forget what Superman did on that day. The world still doesn't trust him, and it is my responsibility to keep it that way. Lex had done wonders with his anti-Superman propaganda campaign. It left the Man of Steel shamed in the eyes of the entire world. Any trust he had built with the public was shattered into a million pieces. Lex wasn't a joyful man, but he knew how to savor a sweet victory. Increase the number of proxies. We need to keep our saviors in top physical condition after all. Lex was referring numerous acts of violence, vandalism, theft, or anything in that nature. He used his extensive surveillance system that most governments and local towns use to capture a crime, then subtly alert a nearby superhero to solve the problem. Whether they failed or succeeded, Lex received combat data to use against them. Simple and successful. What is next on the agenda, Mercy? It is time to cut this activity short. At 7 p.m., you have a dinner with the mayor to discuss the possibility of a kryptonite-powered energy generator for the underprivileged. 8:30 p.m., a phone call to Senator Morrison to get shipment number 778903 into the country without a customs check. 9 p.m., gym workout. 10 p.m., bedtime. Mercy read off her boss's schedule without making a beat. Come then, I have a dinner to attend. Lex stood up from his office chair. You see anything on satellite, Alfred? A black, bat-themed costume-wearing billionaire spoke into the microphone in his submersible watercraft. Negative, Master Wayne. The anomaly has disappeared into the thick foliage. His aged butler's voice echoed throughout the small pit. The trees are too compact for the satellite to track it. Continue your sweep. I'm going to investigate. Batman opened the hatch on his now beached craft. He hopped out of the vehicle and looked at his forearm. A small piece of the armor opened, revealing a keypad. He pressed a few keys which activated an opaque layer sonar vision on the special lenses he wore to help see through the night. Batman's day had been fairly normal. In Batman terms, meant no nation or planet-destroying threat. There had been a few which forced him to team up with other superheroes, but nothing like that today.
The power of Z.
That was until
Thinking,
a few hours
feeling.
ago. Alfred had informed him that a UFO had crash-landed on an uninhabited island in the Florida Keys. While that wasn't particularly remarkable or even important to him, the manner in which it arrived definitely was. Local police received calls from frightened residents that the sky had been torn apart. The unusual phenomenon only lasted for a few minutes, but it was more than enough time for teens and adults to capture it on video. More to the point, in the video, the tear flashed orange for a moment before it looks like something jettisoned out of it and into one of the uninhabited islands below. Batman kept walking through the small piece of land when he arrived at a small crater. Much to his surprise, there was a large humanoid in it. It appeared almost identical to humans except for its spiky, golden hair, glowing yellow eyes, and most noticeable of all was its hulking mass. According to Batman's scans, the being stood at 9 foot 10 and had a mass of nearly 400 kilograms. Gah! The tall brute's deep voice became higher in tone, and he shrunk in volume and mass until he was more or less the same height as the caped hero. His hair shifted to midnight black and became more of a mane, and so did his eyes. The man panted for a few moments, catching his breath. Batman noticed his various cuts and bruises and the giant X-shaped scar across his abdomen. The man looked around. This is not Planet Vampa. He stood up, but hissed in pain when he moved his body. It seemed that Last Warrior caused him considerable injuries. You're on Earth. Batman jumped out of the fauna. He saw Brolly tense up, but in his current condition, he couldn't do much. Earth. I was just here. Brolly looked around. This couldn't have been Earth. There was no ice anywhere, not that he and Go-Getter left any. But then he remembered, my father. Your father. Batman hadn't moved yet. He still didn't know this person's intentions. My father. He's dead. I killed him. Brolly sat on his rear and looked down at the ground. You killed your father. Batman already didn't like the sound of that. But the man was showing signs of remorse and regret. I didn't mean to. Brolly's desperation became clear. His father was the only other person in his life after all. And even through all the punishments and training, he loved the man. But now he was gone. I lost control of myself. I was pushed past my limits and my body acted on its own. I didn't want to. Will you lose control now? Batman asked cautiously. He had no idea what this man was capable of, and until he was certain, perhaps it was best not to provoke this fellow. Brolly closed his eyes. That bottomless well of power he tapped into was closed. However, now that he accessed it, it did feel kind of easier to use if he wanted to. He wasn't being forced into a corner with no way out. He shook his head. Batman thought about where he could take this man, and while not his favorite idea, decided on the Batcave. If you'd like, I could take you somewhere safe to collect yourself. I know you have nowhere else to go. Brolly wasn't in a rush to accept this stranger's offer. Especially one dressed so weird, but he didn't care what the man looked like. A hot meal sounded like heaven. Do you have any water? Yes. Batman contacted Alfred. Alfred, I'm coming back with a guest. Please send Robin to my coordinates in the jet. He can take the submarine back while what's your name? Brolly. While I escort Brolly back in the jet. Geez, you look like you've been through hell. Robin commented on Brolly's appearance. Batman gave him a glare and Robin shrugged his shoulders. Calling it how I see it. Anyway, Alfred said you wanted the jet. Batman nodded. Robin began walking to the sub. I'll see you at the cave. Batman beckoned Brolly to his plane and the bay doors opened, allowing the two inside. Batman seated himself in the pilot's seat, while Brolly did the same in the co-pilot seat.
Bro, bag, let's do
Don't
another
touch anything. If there was one thing Brolly was used to, it was taking orders from people who were, to put it bluntly, smarter than him. Of the Fire Nation, and they knew better. All he knew was how to fight. Okay. Now that we're here, care to tell me your story? Batman all but demanded. Brolly didn't resist. He really had nothing to lose, so he told him everything. Phoenix. Naruto is the prince of the fire to his recent fight with Goku and Vegeta.
Thanks for watching. Please
Batman
subscribe.
was purposefully traveling slowly as to give Brolly time to tell him everything. And I thought my childhood was rough. Batman couldn't exactly picture himself living off of giant beetles for 40 years on a remote planet the way this fellow did. Not to mention accidentally killing his own father, he must have been beating himself up over it. He likely wouldn't forgive himself for years to come, maybe never. I know what it's like to lose your parents. I lost mine when I was a child. How did they die? A man killed them. We were going home when a thief tried to rob them. It went awry and they were killed in front of me. Batman shared with him. While he normally wouldn't be so open about those details of his life, he could tell Brolly wasn't a violent man. He was merely used as a tool nearly his entire life, never to have his own freedom and path. Perhaps this was the universe's way of granting him another chance at life. Did you get revenge against the man who hurt you? I almost did. Why didn't you? It wasn't worth it. To seek revenge and kill him would mean to continue the cycle. An eye for an eye leaves everyone blind. He saw Brolly's confused face. It's an Earth expression. What I am saying is that if I killed the man, that'd make me no better than him. I'd be stooping to his level to satisfy my own desires, and it's not my place to make a judgment like that. Then whose place is it? Brolly asked. Batman opened and closed his mouth. He wanted to say God, but he wasn't a religious person. Who knows? But it's not us. So you're a peaceful man then? No. Batman replied. I have discipline. Control. I didn't give in to my desires. Can you teach me to control myself? Brolly asked. Batman had hoped he would. If he could keep Brolly nearby, then it'd be easier to keep tabs on him. Regardless of whether or not Brolly was evil at heart, he had a dangerous power inside him he couldn't fully control, and both of them knew it. It won't be easy. It will take dedication, strength of will, and discipline. Batman looked at Wayne Manor in the distance. Do you have what it takes? He saw Brolly nod. Then we can start tomorrow. Master Wayne, I must inform you that Harley Quinn was spotted breaking into the Gotham Bank. Along with her is Poison Ivy and Catwoman. Alfred told Bruce, who was busy practicing breathing techniques with Brolly to help calm himself if he ever got too excited or angry. Those three. What could those three possibly be after in the bank? Bruce stood up. Brolly, keep working on those yoga techniques. I'll be back in an hour. Brolly nodded and remained seated. Batman followed Alfred to the Batcave. How long ago did they strike? Batman unsealed all of his equipment from the wall. His suit and gadgets were on display for him to use. After years of doing it, slipping into the Batman costume was second nature and only took 90 seconds. 5 minutes ago, Master Wayne. The sensors you bugged the vault with alerted the central computer. I took notice and came to you immediately. I'm going in. Send Robin and Barbara after me if I'm not back within the hour. Batman hopped into his Batmobile and sped off into the city from his manor on the outskirts. Barbara had already been briefed, and since they haven't left after Bruce yet, she decided to check out the new guy Batman had brought home. She was busy dealing with the Riddler at the time and was preoccupied. But now she had a little time to kill. Barbara opened the door to Batman's home gym. She spotted the man sitting in the middle of the room practicing, a little clumsily to her amusement, yoga. He turned to her when she opened the door. Do all of you dress like bats? Brolly asked her before she could say anything. Barbara laughed at his question. Only when fighting crime, big guy. Why? You don't have criminals where you're from? No. On my planet, it was just my father and I. We were stranded there for 40 years. I guess there was no crime because there was no one else to do it. Stranded on an alien world must have been really rough. How do you like Earth? Barbara was reeling in her mind. 40 fucking years. It's certainly cooler than Vampa. But after decades in the hot sun, it feels weird, but nice. The smell is great. All of the plant life on Vampa was hostile, here they are colorful and smell good. If you like that, then you'll love our national parks. Anyway, how come Batman's got you doing yoga exercises? I have trouble controlling my power. Batman offered to help me. How's it going? I don't know, we only started this morning. That's alright. Practice makes perfect, all it takes is a little time. You'll get it down eventually. Barbara encouraged the awkward man. Sorry, where are my manners? My name's Barbara Gordon, or Batgirl when I'm wearing my disguise. But please, call me Batgirl. I am Brolly. Brolly introduced himself. Then he remembered his father saying, remember your manners. So the Saiyan stood up and bowed to her, much to her surprise. A pleasure, Brolly. Barbara held her hand out. Her smile wavered a bit when Brolly didn't shake her hand. Do you know what a handshake is? At his head shake she chuckled. He didn't seem to know much of anything. That's okay, I'll teach you. Hold your hand out like I am. Okay, good. Now, when I grasp your hand I want you to squeeze and shake up and down like so. Barbara took his hand and shook. She quickly fell to her knees in pain when Brolly squeezed. You're hurting me. Brolly immediately let go of her. I am so sorry. He quickly apologized to her. Remembering his father's harsh punishments whenever he did something wrong, he flinched and looked away from her. Please don't hurt me, father. He flinched even more when he felt phantom pains of his old electric collar. I'm sorry. Barbara got to her feet and nursed her hand. It hurt like hell, almost like she shook hands with Superman himself. She saw how he reacted to her cries of pain and saw a textbook case of physical and mental abuse right in front of her. Momentarily forgetting her own pain, she rushed to his side and noted his shaking. He moved away from her when she reached out to him. Hey, it's okay, Brolly. You're safe. I'm not going to hurt you. Barbara tried to calm him down. You're safe with me. I'm here to help you, not hurt you. Brolly stopped shaking and let Barbara embrace him. He stood up with her support and she led him to the kitchen to get something to drink. After he drank nearly a gallon of water within seconds, he sat down in a chair. Barbara sat across from him and held his hands in hers. She tried to get his attention. You okay, big guy? You want to talk about what happened back there? No response. Please don't feel guilty over hurting my hand. I'm tougher than I look, you know. I know it was an accident, and I promise you, sometimes you feel better after you talk about things. Brolly finally looked her in the eyes. Barbara saw pain in his and felt a pang of pity for the man. It only made her even more curious about Brolly's past. I'm sorry. Don't be. Accidents happen. It hurt like hell, but you didn't do any damage. Now please, talk to me. Brolly kept silent for a few more minutes trying to find the right words. When I lived with my father on Vampa, I didn't have control of my powers then either. We trained day after day so I could get strong. Sometimes, I would lose control of myself and attack everything around me. I'm the reason my father lost an eye. Brolly paused. After a few years, my father made a collar. He spat that word like it was venom. He put it on me so that if I ever lost control, he could stop me. So he put a shock collar on you. Barbara finished for him. Brolly nodded in confirmation. I'm sorry for what you had to go through, Brolly, but I can tell you that no one here will ever put a collar on you again. You'll be free to live your own life the way you want to. That's the problem. I don't know what I want to do. I've never been by myself. Father always made every decision for me. Then maybe you'll find inspiration somewhere. For now, follow Batman's advice. He knows what to do, and he'll help you live your own life in this world. Who knows, Brolly? This could be your chance at a good life. Barbara smiled at him. Brolly felt a little more at ease and returned her smile with a nod. It was at that moment that Batman had returned. He kept his usual stoic face and stopped by the table. Barbara leaned back in her chair and looked at her mentor. They were gone by the time I arrived. Whatever they were looking for, they didn't find, though they were kind enough to leave this for me. Batman handed a picture to Batgirl. Barbara eyed the picture and chuckled to herself when she saw Harley Quinn flipping off the camera. $10 says Ivy took the picture. Regardless, this is the second time those three have raided a place of interest. First, the Academy of Virology in Gotham University, and now the vault of Gotham's most heavily guarded bank. We're going to have to look for a link. I can work on it. Batgirl volunteered. She held the picture out to him, but he waved it off. She shrugged and left it on the table. Brolly, follow me. We have more exercises to do. Batman left. Brolly stood to do the same. But before he did, Barbara grabbed his hand. Listen, Brolly, don't worry about what you did. I forgive you, and if you ever need someone to talk to, it can be about anything, you can talk to me, okay? Yes, thank you. Brolly nodded before leaving. 2 months later. You've made progress, Brolly. Batman noted. His voice remained flat. You've passed every stress test I put you through, from the easy to the difficult. Not once did you lose your temperament. Thank you. If not for your help, I don't know where I'd be. Batman continued. I can teach you to properly fight. However, I can't help you control your power. That's more in Superman's realm of expertise. He actually has the strength to fight you off should you lose control, and he has the Arctic Circle as a training ground. It's a harsh environment at the North Pole. Superman would be your best bet. Physically, he's the strongest on Earth. Brolly got a little excited at the prospect of training with someone powerful, his being a Scion and all. Where is he? Metropolis for the moment. He and I aren't on the best terms right now, nevertheless I believe you. You can benefit immensely from him. I'll contact him and see whether he has the time to spare. Superman landed on the roof of Wayne Manor. Well, this is certainly a surprise. I thought you and I were done. He crossed his arms over his broad chest. Something along the lines of, I might still be a sleeper cell. It's a surprise for me too. I was not planning on contacting you so soon after the incident, but things have changed. I need your help. You need my help? Superman asked incredulously. I'm flattered. Don't be. Batman wanted to keep this meeting as short as possible. I don't need your help personally. A man I met does. His name is Brolly and he's not from around here. He's an alien. Superman deduced. What does he need? Training in your fortress of solitude. He is part of a race called the Scions. He is the last of his kind in this universe, but he's a unique case amongst his race. Brolly has an innate ability for battle. He has no control over his power and I don't have the time nor physical strength to help him in this endeavor. Training in your fortress of solitude. He is part of a race called the Scions. He is the last of his kind in this universe, but he's a unique case amongst his race. Brolly has an innate ability for battle. He has no control over his power and I don't have the time nor physical strength to help him in this endeavor. I know you have your life, which is why I am asking for your help on his behalf. Batman ended his request. What's it like when he loses control? I've no idea. I have not witnessed one of his episodes. But even if he is incredibly strong, what are the odds he can match you of all people? Superman sighed. Another person needed his help, where was the shock there? Still, he made a personal oath to help those in need. I'd like to at least meet the man. Fine. Batman beckoned him to follow. Brolly was once again in the gymnasium. It was practically where he lived when he wasn't sleeping elsewhere. He looked toward the doorway when he heard two sets of heavy footsteps. It was Batman and some other man in a blue and red costume. Brolly. Batman began. You have a new teacher. And you'll be living at his home in the Arctic for a while. This is Superman. Superman stepped forward and held his hand out. Brolly looked at his hand and remembered hurting Barbara, so he took great care this time. He extended his own and squeezed gently. Superman chuckled. You've got a problem controlling your strength. It was more of a statement than question. Do me a favor. Squeeze as hard as you can. Don't worry, I can take it. I'm a Kryptonian, we're as strong as they come in the cosmos. Brolly was reluctant, but eventually he squeezed his hand with as much strength as he could muster. Superman's smile never faded. When they let go, Superman rubbed his hand. You've got some power packed in you, I almost felt that one. Thank you. Brolly was unsure if that was supposed to be a compliment or an insult. Can you fly, Brolly? Yes. Then follow me, and get ready for a long flight. Superman turned around to leave, but Batman stopped him. This flash drive contains everything you need to know about him. It includes detailed reports on his anatomy, diet, as well as audio files about his background. You recorded your conversations with him. For accuracy's sake. Good luck. I don't suppose this means I've got your trust back. No, while I appreciate you helping someone, it doesn't change anything, trust is earned. Superman left with Brolly behind him. Brolly landed on the ice continent up in the North Pole. Superman led him to a natural cave system in the tundra. Its unique structure allowed it to be quite warm inside, much to Brolly's comfort. He didn't mind the cold, but he preferred some warmth. Thank you. Brolly bowed his head to Superman. The slightly shorter man was surprised but accepted nonetheless. I'm glad to help you. All I ask is that you be extremely careful in there. There are things inside very important to me. I understand. Brolly returned. Superman showed him where he would be sleeping and how to get some food. Okay, let's go back outside and get started. So Brolly, you ready to start? Superman asked. Brolly was 100 yards away from him. The howling wind made it difficult to hear, But Superman could overcome that by speaking louder. Brolly nodded. Superman levitated above the ice and cracks began to form underneath his feet. He sped off toward Brolly and cocked his arm back. Brolly crossed his arms in front of his chest so Superman aimed lower and hit his gut instead. Brolly reeled in pain and doubled over the Kryptonian's fist. He relived the pain he felt when Vegeta struck him as a Super Saiyan god. So his body responded and he pulled himself together. Brolly grunted as he hit Superman with a devastating uppercut. Superman was lifted off his feet but Brolly caught him before he flew away. He slammed Superman onto the ice and lifted him overhead and slammed him once more. Brolly lifted his boot up to crush Clark when he countered with his heat vision. It struck Brolly's cheek leaving him with a mild burn. Brolly growled and ran towards Clark. Each step left spiderweb cracks on the ice beneath. He reached out for his head but Kal-El ducked underneath and wrapped his hands around Brolly's ankles. He picked the Saiyan up and spun him around several times before throwing him at a nearby cliff face. Brolly was stopped cold by the ice wall. Superman held back on purpose so Brolly would slam into the wall instead of break through it. Superman zoomed to Brolly and grabbed his shoulders and picked him up. He delivered a left hook, followed by a haymaker, along with 2 quick jabs to Brolly's ribs. Superman ended it with an uppercut that snapped Brolly's head back into the wall, shattering it. Superman took a step back and let out a breath to blow away any and all debris possibly blocking Brolly from view. It revealed Brolly holding a massive ice boulder and he wasted no time throwing it at Kal-El. Superman punched the boulder to pieces and blasted Brolly with heat vision once more. Brolly grunted with pain and yelled. He grabbed at his face and looked to the sky. Seconds later, massive twin beams of energy shot out of Brolly's eyes. He looked back down to Earth resulting in the beams melting through meters and meters of ice in seconds. Superman flew away when Brolly finally managed to get a fix on his location. The energy beams began to intensify with electricity dancing and crackling around them. Still, Superman managed to avoid them without much trouble. From his altitude in the air, Superman aimed at Brolly and shot down like a meteor. His 2 fists landed square on Brolly's chest, knocking the air out of him while both of them broke through the ice below. Brolly brought his hand up and shot out several spheres of ki that though the Man of Steel dodged them, they blew up with almost thermonuclear force. The blasts destroyed the ice cliff they were next to. It collapsed into a large mound of ice and rubble. Both fighters were buried underneath several tons of frozen water. Superman broke out of the ice with little issue. His invulnerability was working pretty well so far. Brolly's hits were slowly but surely getting heavier and more powerful. His super hearing picked up heavy rumbling and rays of green light were peeking through the gaps. Not moments later did a massive explosion vaporize all the ice in the vicinity and clear the land. At the center of the crater was Brolly. His arms were at his sides and he was breathing heavily. Superman noticed his opponent's rising heartbeat and was ready to subdue him if need be, but Brolly continued his breathing. He needed sheer will to prevent his power from boiling over. It was difficult, attacking and suppressing what made him a Saiyan. Sweat rolled down his temple and forehead and his heart thundered in his chest. Brolly got it under control and gave a roar to the heavens. Not long after, a massive green energy wave exploded from his open maw. It was too large and fast for Kal-El to dodge in time, so he had no choice but to brace himself for it. He crossed his arms in front of his body and brought one knee up leaving his other leg down. The green energy wave washed over him like a tsunami. His figure was lost in the intense green light. The energy kept sailing through the sky until it exploded in the lower atmosphere. The shockwave cleared the sky of all clouds and blew away any debris and animal nearby. Superman's form was smoking a little from several singed patches on his body. His cape was left in tatters and all that remained of his symbol was the small X-shaped area he blocked with his arms. The revitalizing rays of the sun brought him back to full power once more, not that he was injured, but the last son of Krypton felt more than just a tingle. So far, Brolly can best most of Earth's heroes. Still, I think the stronger of us can take him on. Superman talked to himself. If he can control himself, then he could use his powers for good. Brolly. Can you hear me? A few seconds of silence passed. I can hear you. Brolly replied. The hulking Saiyan looked at his hands. His heart rate was just as fast as when he fought Vegeta. He clenched his fists and gave a confident smile. So far, he hadn't lost control. Almost did for a minute, but he could rein in the beast inside. Let's keep going. You got it. Superman readied himself again.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like this video if you want some more What If video. Comment 3 hearts for more What If.